Is this cute? Like tucking most of your hair behind your ear, but leaving like a little bit down, like a little elven moment, little elven ear and hair moment, Lord of the Rings elf. I'm leaving it. Y'all, here's what we're doing today. One of the most recent, I think it was the most recent video that I filmed, and it might actually be the most recent video to have gone up on my channel, was basically a haul. I shared with you all of the things that I decided to spend my budget on for the spring and the summer. I enjoy filming videos like that. It's fun to share my discoveries, share my aesthetic, share my joy. But in the wake of filming that video, even though I had prefaced it with a whole other video about the entire history of my relationship with shopping and my recovery from compulsive shopping, even though those videos kind of went together, and I feel like the first one did qualify the second one, even so, I was left after having filmed that video with a little bit of unease because I feel like I was reminded in the course of doing it that a thing that happens a lot on YouTube is that we focus on the things that we do buy. So you see people up here on YouTube always wearing and applying and talking about and reviewing the things that they do buy. And we don't talk as much about resisting the desire to buy a whole bunch more stuff than that. And, you know, for people like me, people with limited discretionary income and a lot of desire for and appreciation for beautiful things, at least for me, I have to say no a lot more than I say yes. Like there are a handful of things that I decided to buy with my budget over the spring and the summer, and there are hundreds of things that I wanted and decided not to buy. But the YouTube video that I ended up making was about the things that I did buy. So I decided to come back and kind of like do the equal and opposite video. I'm making a video here about many of the things, although not all of them, I can't cover all of them, but many of the things that I wanted and decided not to buy so that I can give you a fuller picture of the actual relationship that I have with browsing, shopping, making decisions, and deciding to buy beautiful things. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome, hello. I'm Hannah. I'm very glad you are here. I love beautiful things, but I can't afford to buy too many of them. So sometimes I make content about that. That's what this video is. I also sometimes review new makeup products. And I also, a lot of times I apply makeup and play with makeup that I've owned for a long time. I'm really big on loving what you already have and continuing to use what you already have. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe. Now let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Look at this little bread loaf. Look at this angry little bread loaf. Why are you mad and sad, Sadie? She's mad and sad. Friends, this has the potential to be a very long video. I'm actually really going to try to blow through it because I feel like some of it's interesting. I mean, it was interesting for me to make this list because I was like, oh yeah, that thing that I wanted, that thing that I decided not to buy, that thing that was way too expensive. It's interesting. So that'll be fun, right? Because I'm just going to be sharing with you some of my kind of chaotic and wild and aesthetic desire that like ranges through my life as I interact with the internet and the world. So that's fun. But the main point is like about volume. You know what I mean? I'm only actually able to share with you a fraction of the things that I've considered. There is a great number of things that I don't even remember that I wanted to buy. I think we often even forget. If you don't give in to the initial desire to buy something, you forget about it. So I couldn't possibly report back about absolutely everything, but this is just quite a long list, and I'm going to try to get through it just to give you a sense of like the volume. Okay, one thing at a time. I'm going to just have to take it bird by bird, Poston, bird by bird. First on the list, the expensive Tikis, which is how you pronounce this brand that I've always thought was pronounced Tikis, T-K-E-S. I believe now that it's pronounced Tikis. So I need to replace my sandals. This is actually a pretty practical thing. I've had one pair of slide sandals the entire 4+ years that we've lived in LA, and they're getting absolutely disgusting, like really, really to the point where it's not a thing to be wearing them. I don't love sandals. It's not my favorite kind of shoes. I have not wanted to buy any if I didn't think that I was going to really love them. I finally decided that probably a little pair of Tikis is what's going to be right for me. And it was actually after I filmed. It has happened. This is like the most recent thing that's happened to me that I decided not to buy. Since I filmed the last video, I decided that the last thing I was going to do with my budget for the spring and summer was replace my sandals with a pair of Tikis. So I've been shopping on the Tikis site, and there is a pretty broad range of prices. Like the flip-flops and the very basic sandals start at $50. And then the more expensive and elaborate ones go up to like $115 or I think maybe even $125. There's a pair that looks like it will work for me. That'll be nice for me. That's $50. And there's another pair that for some reason I kind of have like talked up to myself that I've been really drawn into. And I'm like, oh, these ones would be like the specialist ones. They're like $115. They're more than twice the price of the basic pair. And I just decided to just get the basic pair. And so I put the basic pair in my cart, and then I was very tempted to get the other pair as well. Like I have resisted both buying 2 pairs of tikis and just stuck to one. And I've also resisted buying the more expensive pair instead of the least expensive pair. Now, it's not as though $115 is like way, way, way above my price range when it comes to a pair of sandals, especially not if I'm just going to wear one pair of sandals for 4 years, which is what I did with my last pair of sandals. It's not like I can't ever fathom spending that much, but it's the end of the spending season for me. So I've already bought 4 dresses, some earrings, a shirt, this relatively expensive shirt for me, like all of the things that I talked about in that video. And I do feel like I've had it. Like I really don't feel like I should be spending another $100 on anything until the fall, like until I sort of move into another budgeting phase. So if it had been the beginning of the season, if it had been like April, May, June or something, I probably would have bought either both pairs of sandals or the more expensive pair. But because it's the end of the season and I feel like I'm just sort of tacking this on, even though I feel like I'm pretty much at my spending limit, I'm just tacking these on because it's a very practical need to replace my sandals. I went with a less expensive pair and I just got 1 pair. So the $115 tikis, have I been saying tikis this whole time or have I not even said it? The $115 tikis, that's something that I really wanted even just over the past couple of days. And I kind of went round and round about. And then I decided I'm pretty much in austerity mode right now, right? I'm not really splurging really on anything anymore for the time being. And so I decided to just get the least expensive pair that's still serviceable. And, you know, they haven't come in the mail yet. I don't know yet if I like them or not. And when I find out if they are going to work for me or not, I'll try to remember to let you know. Okay, item number 2. At this rate, we're going to be here all evening, my friends. I talked about this in that other video too. I had this moment where I was like, what I need on my feet is a pair of sandals, summer sandals that look like fluffy bedroom slippers. And I went round and around. I like made a bunch of decisions about which pair I would like the most. And then I ultimately decided not to get them. And it's sort of for a similar reason, because this was pretty recent as well. I need to buy 1 pair of sandals. And so I want them to be pretty inexpensive. And I also want them to be quite practical. But that at the time was a pretty intense grip. I was pretty intensely in the grip of that sort of like fantastical passion where I just had a vision of myself and how fashion forward I would be and how much I would look like an influencer if I just had these fluffy sandals. And the really important thing for me is that I waited it out. I waited until I was no longer in that sort of drug-like headspace of clicking and shopping and fantasizing. So even though I sometimes do that as a way of unwinding, I don't make purchases when I'm in that headspace because I know that it's not a good place from which to make decisions. So as soon as I kind of like calmed down and got out of that headspace and got into a mindset where it maybe would have been rational for me to make a purchase, as soon as I got to that place, I no longer wanted those fluffy sandals. Okay, here's one where it's like, this is one of those things that happens to a person of limited means, where you see something that is so breathtakingly stunning and gripping to your heart and that you feel like you would love so much and you would wear it so often and you would feel and look your best, and it's just out of your price range. That happened to me pretty recently with the most recent drop on the Doen website. So Doen, actually, this top is by Doen. Just like chaos in the house right now. Cats coming in, cats coming out, people getting lunch, people clanging plates, people coughing. Doen just last week released some new pieces, and they released this set. The top actually looks quite a lot like this top, and that's one of the things that compelled me. It doesn't have the ruffles, but I think it does have like the buttons and the puffed sleeves. It has like a little bit of a different hemline down at the hem, at the waist, but structurally it's very similar, and I do quite like the silhouette of this. And the print is this really compelling kind of red floral, maybe slightly tropical feeling, but it also feels a bit vintage and very festive, but sophisticated to me in its kind of like loveliness, in its lovely summery-ness. I think it might even be like a cotton silk blend. Just really, you can tell it's just really, really beautiful fabric. And the creme de la creme, the pièce de résistance, it comes with, or it doesn't come with, you have to buy them separately. They released the top and they released this skirt, like quite long, but not totally maxi length, but like kind of like a long T length, like true ankle length. And it just looks so glamorous and comfortable and summery and like the separates version of the kinds of house dresses that I've really been enjoying wearing pretty much nonstop throughout the entire summer. I haven't in a long time seen an outfit that I loved the looks of so much and that I felt so passionately drawn to and that I immediately envisioned loving as much as I immediately envisioned loving that. But the skirt is like $300. I think the fabric is kind of expensive. Some Doen stuff is more in the like $100 and $200 range. I think this shirt was like $140 or something. And some of it's in the like $300, $400, $500, $600 range. And this set, if you were to buy them both together, would be, I think, like $450, almost $500. And I just can't, that's like, no, I can't. Maybe if it was at the very beginning of the season, like if it was April, literally, and I hadn't spent anything or bought anything, and I was going to buy that set and then buy almost nothing for the entire rest of the spring and summer, you know, like pretty much spend my entire or almost my entire combined budget on that set. Maybe then I could do it. But now at this moment, at the end of the season, when I've just bought 4 dresses and, you know, a piece of 14 karat gold jewelry for my little ear hole, no, it's just not for me. It's not an option for me. But man, I really, really wanted it. I really wanted it. And it's actually fun to just talk about it to you guys. You know, it's like just fun to share the excitement and the vision and the passion. In a weird way, there's like a part of what I would get out of owning it and wearing it, I get out of just waxing poetic about it. I'm like, let's just put a picture of it on the screen and let's all ooh and ah. And let's all be like, isn't that print beautiful? Isn't the fabric beautiful? Isn't the silhouette beautiful? Let's all feel those feelings together. I feel like that's kind of similar to what I would be doing if I bought it and I wore it on camera. And I was like, let's all ooh and ah. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't the print beautiful? Let's all feel these feelings together. Like, I just feel like that's kind of similar. I'm like blowing my own mind right now. There is more than one way to appreciate beauty and to share one's love of beauty, I guess is what I'm discovering and saying. So here's the thing that happened. I was looking at it and I was like, I want it, but I can't afford it. And I don't want to buy anything else right now because I already bought a bunch of stuff this spring and summer, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, but maybe the thing that I want is a skirt. Maybe I want a skirt with that kind of silhouette because I don't own it. I actually own only one skirt, except for a couple of tango pieces. But I have this one silk skirt that I made for myself back when I had a sewing atelier. And that's it. I don't really wear skirts and I don't really own skirts. And I definitely don't have like a summer cotton practical, like the skirt version of a cotton house dress. So I was like, maybe that's what I want, but it doesn't have to be a $300 one from Doen. So I went looking on Etsy to see if I could find something similar. And I did. I found a really beautiful cotton midi skirt by an independent, sewer, designer and sewer on Etsy for like $70 in a really similar print. I'll put the picture up on the screen, really similar. And I was like, I found it. I found the Etsy version, the small business version, the handmade version, and a much, much less expensive version, but I still didn't buy it for the same reason. It's like, yeah, $70 would make a lot less of an impact on my bank account right now than $300, but it's just not spending time for me right now. Even though I let go of my really strict seasonal budgets where it's like a week, even though I'm not doing that anymore, I know how much I've spent over the summer and spring. And $70 on top of it, to me right now feels like it would be too much. So even though I found the budget version and wanted it and put it in my cart on Etsy, I still didn't buy it. Ooh, here's a really beautiful thing. This is fun because I'm sharing with you like the things that have been sort of haunting my dreams, but they've also been haunting my internet browsing because of those retargeting ads. If you like look at something a couple times, then you're just like, I don't know, Googling the answer to a math problem and then the picture comes up and it's like, remember me, you want me so much. And that's what's been happening to me so much with this Desmond and Dempsey nightgown. It's my exact kind of thing. It's really, really beautiful, beautifully designed, luxurious pajamas. And I love that kind of thing, but I actually have a number of really beautifully designed, luxurious pajamas because I've been connected with this brand Print Fresh that has been kind enough to send me a couple of pieces, like a beautiful printed cotton robe, some beautiful printed pajamas, like a beautiful printed sort of nightshirt type thing that I've been absolutely loving lately. And so I definitely don't feel like, oh, something that I would love to have that I don't own is luxury pajamas, really beautiful cotton pajamas. I don't feel like that at all. I've been really lucky when it comes to beautiful pajamas, but most of the pajamas that I have are not good for super, super hot weather. Warm weather where it's in between, they're fine because they're cotton and they're breathable. But the Print Fresh sets that I have are long sleeve. Print Fresh does make like camis and short sleeve and spaghetti strap tanks and nightgowns. I just don't have any of them. So I think that was why I came across this Desmond and Dempsey nightgown once I was browsing around, just like thinking about what kind of incredibly loose, lightweight nightwear I would like to sleep in the very, very hot summer. And I love the print on this one. I just love it. It's so beautiful. I also love the length. I love the styling. It's something that I still haven't entirely let go of. Like in a couple of months in the fall, if I still feel really compelled by it, and it's not just like this thing where I'm like, I'm so hot at night right now, I need to get this $100 nightgown, blah, blah, blah. If it still keeps haunting me, and if I get enough distance so that I feel like it's part of what I am allowing myself to spend in the fall instead of the summer, then I might still buy it. Like this one has continued to live on in my imagination and in my heart in a way that not everything that I'm talking about today has. But similarly, even though it's like, again, I've spent $100 on stuff for myself before, so it's not as though it's a $500 nightgown that's completely outside of the realm of possibility for me. Even though that's the case, I don't feel comfortable spending another $100 of my money right now. And so as beautiful as it is, and as much as I love it, I chose other things for this season and I didn't choose it. And so for now, I just have to let it go. Let's talk about the desire to buy more of the stuff that I did buy. This is a big one for me, right? That beautiful dress that I showed in the other video, that's like the maxi dress, the full shirt dress, maxi made out of the Frida Kahlo printed fabric. As soon as it arrived, I put it on. I loved the fit so much, and they did such a good job of making it fit well and look nice and tailored, but not be so tight that it feels uncomfortable. Everything about it, the way that it was made to my measurements, the proportions, everything about it's so great that my first reaction when I put it on was like, can I get another one just like this in another print? I've talked about this before. We've been here, right? I even emailed the Etsy shop. I was like, do you have other prints, other fabrics? Would you be able to make this in another fabric? And they were like, we would be delighted to, of course, because they're wonderful and they have these beautiful other prints. They were like, yeah, just let us know which print you want. And then I didn't do it because I'm like, I already have the perfect one. I was doing that thing where I was like, I love the dress that I got so much that I want to act on that love by buying another one. But I know from experience that I almost never love the second one as much as I love the first one. And sometimes I don't end up even really liking the second one at all. I've learned to catch myself in the act most of the time when I have that impulse and just realize that I'm having that impulse because I love the thing that I have so much. And so I've learned to just turn that impulse into a renewed appreciation for the thing that I have, because that's really where it's coming from. That's really where that impulse is coming from. So I resisted the desire to buy another of those dresses from that Etsy shop. Sadie's making trouble today. You have to be on the channel if you're gonna make me get up and open the door every 5 minutes today. Little purr bean. Sadie's been like the love bug of the world for the past couple days. What were we talking about? I was talking about resisting the desire to buy more of the things that I already did buy with my budget. So another one is like more 14 karat gold jewelry, like more solid gold jewelry. I talked in the video about what I did buy, about having bought some pretty inexpensive jewelry, just a couple of pieces for these lower holes. Then I bought this one really beautiful, minimalist, high quality piece for this top piercing on my ear. And as soon as it arrived and I saw how beautiful it was and I put it in and I saw how happy I was with it, of course, what I immediately wanted to do was to buy a whole bunch more just like that. I just was like, I wanted to immediately go and spend like $300 on little earrings for all of my ear holes that were all from the same designer as this one. I did fantasize about it a little bit. I was like, which ones would I get? What would they look like? Someday maybe I'll have all of that. But I resisted mightily the impulse to actually go ahead and do that. I also wanted to buy a bunch more Skims. So I talked briefly in that haul video about the fact that I'm going to do, I think, 2 videos actually. One is going to be like the search for the most comfortable underwear, and there will probably be some Skims that feature in that video. But then I'm planning to do another separate video about the other garments from Skims that I've tried, because I've tried a couple. I wouldn't even call it a handful, but like a few different garments from Skims. So I think I'm going to do a Skims video. So I have a couple pieces that I'm testing from Skims. As soon as I got them and I started testing them, I wanted to buy a whole bunch more from Skims. I wanted to buy the terry cloth robe, which is really ridiculous because I have so many robes, and the terry cloth leggings, and like a bunch of t-shirts, like just like the loungewear from Skims. And it's like, I don't need loungewear, right? I have t-shirts, I have all of these beautiful pajamas. I feel like the world is gonna be opening up again soon, and I'm gonna be wearing less and less loungewear. It was just it was an impulse that was counter to the reality of my life right now and what would actually be smart for me to spend my budget on and to spend my time on and to spend the space in my closet on. It just doesn't make sense at all. But the impulse was very powerful. So I really had to have a sit down with myself, especially about that terry cloth robe, because also it's very hot right now. A terry cloth robe would be too hot for me to wear right now. But there have been a handful of times when I've been getting out of the shower, toweling off, and I'm like, I need that terry cloth robe from Skims. I really want that terry cloth robe from Skims. And then I'm just like, Hannah, no, you don't. You're done spending your budget for the season. You have other robes. Just wear what you have. And what I do is when I have that feeling, which it's like 3 times it's happened, I take my little self to my robes, my actual robes, and I look at them and I put one on and I say to myself, isn't this nice? Don't you have enough? And then I say to myself, yes, Hannah, yes, it is nice. Yes, you do have enough. And then that momentary childish freak out and desire for this other robe just goes back to sleep. Oh, this is like a long-standing one. I feel like Sadie's eating really loudly. It's okay. It's like ASMR cat eating. That is a thing, you know, on YouTube. Have you seen that? Like a little kitten eating a big piece of salmon with the mic right in its face. I've watched it. So I have these pants. There's a really amazing brand called Black Crane. It's like a small independent clothing designer. I think it's based in LA. Several years ago, must be like 8 to 10 years ago at this point, they came out in, I think, their summer release with these pants that they called accordion. What did they, either balloon pants or accordion pants or something like that. But they're those classic kind of like drop crotch harem pants made out of crinkle cotton with a stretch waistband. And that kind of thing it's all over. Like you can find a lot of that kind of pant at, you know, street markets and on Etsy and even on Amazon at this point. Like the world is awash in those kinds of pants. But the Black Crane ones were particularly well designed. And at that time I bought a black pair. And I also bought sort of like this sagey, greeny brown, light greeny brown pair. For years, through every summer, those have been my most worn pants. I just wear them constantly with everything. And if you've been following my like outfit of the day on Instagram for a long time, like back when I used to post my outfit of the day on Instagram, then you would have probably seen them a bunch of times. Some of you might actually know what I'm talking about, these pants. They haven't fallen apart yet. They're still going strong. Neither of them has a hole in it. Neither of them has like lost its shape. The elastic hasn't lost its shape. Neither of them is stained. Everything's fine, but they are getting really old. So up close, I can see that they're a little bit dingy. They've both been washed like hundreds of times. Like these are like my go-to garments, my hardcore OG go-to pants. I got in my head a couple months ago to find another source of this kind of pant, because you can no longer find these pants even on the resale market. I think that they really, like, seasons and seasons and seasons have passed. And sometimes I desultorily Google for them and I just can't find them. And also Black Crane hasn't released the same pant. They do that sometimes with their designs, but they haven't released this same pant again. So it's really over, I think, for this actual pant from Black Crane. I've looked on Etsy and I've found some shops that I think might be selling something pretty similar. The cotton looks really similar. The styling looks really similar. The sizing looks kind of similar. And they're not even that expensive. Like I think a lot of them are $25, $30, which is less than I paid for the pants that I bought from Black Crane back in the day. And so there have been a couple times when I've been like, I'm going to replace those. I'm going to get like 3 or 4 pairs of that style of pant, but you know, in cream and in a new black pair. And I'm going to like refresh them, like get new ones. Not because the old ones are worn out or because they don't work anymore, but just because they're old. And that is why I have not followed through with that impulse. That is why I've said no to that desire. Of course, it would be fun to have like new, really crisp, deep colors in them, and a cream colored pair, a white pair, maybe a striped pair. But the ones that I have are working just fine. And this is something that I remember really learning about myself during my no-buy year. I feel like there's the desire to replace something because it's really truly falling apart and not working anymore, like underwear for me these days, the sandals that I was talking about. There's also sometimes for me the desire to replace something just because it's old. Not even when other people can see that it's old, but I just feel like I'll feel happier with myself. I'll feel happier in my life if my stuff is in pristine condition, if my stuff has that sort of like new car smell or that new car feel about it. And it's like, what is that? I learned during my no-buy year to kind of examine that impulse. Clearly it hasn't gone away. Like there's still part of me that sometimes feels riled up about wanting to have a new version of something that I already have that works well. That's only issue is that it's old. But the difference between pre-no-buy year Hannah and current Hannah is that now I'm able to catch myself in the act and keep myself from doing that. I wanted to replace my balloon pants just because they're old, but I didn't replace them because they're still working really well. And if they ever do completely disintegrate and fall apart and fall off my body, maybe I'll replace them then. But until then, I can just keep using the ones that I have. Whew, okay. Wow, we're not even like a quarter of the way through my list, and I already feel like I've spent all of my humors. Maybe I need to like cool it a little bit, but also speed it up a little bit. I can do that. Similar story with a butterfly clip for my hair. So I've been really getting a lot of use out of my one butterfly clip, like claw. Where is it? This kind of hair thingy. So, I, especially with this new haircut and my new hair routine, did a whole video about it. If you want to know about it, then you should watch that video. I'll try to remember to link it down below. I've been using this clip a lot to hold like half my hair up while the other half dries. And I've been just using this clip a lot to wear my hair. I feel like there's something about the shag that suits this kind of like half up, half down, just casually thrown up in a tortoiseshell clip kind of style. I hadn't been using it for a long time. And then recently, since I got my haircut, it's come back out of retirement. I've been using it almost daily. Like I've been using it constantly. And like a month or two ago, I was like, wow, I'm really getting a lot of use out of that butterfly clip. I should buy another one. This was me to myself. I'm really using the thing that I own a lot. I should buy another one. And what I did was I went looking. So I like looked on Ulta, I like looked on Amazon for a couple minutes. And then I was like, what are you doing? You are trying to find a thing that you already own. Like if it breaks, then maybe you can replace it then. But until then, you can only put one of them in your hair at one time. You're not proposing to get another one and put them both in your hair at one time. So yeah, it might be mildly more convenient to have a second one, like you could keep one in your purse and one in your vanity or something. But the other thing that you could do, Hannah, this is still me talking to myself. The other thing you could do is just use the one that you have and put it in your hair when you need one. And when you don't need one, don't put it in your hair. And then you'll still have one in your hair as frequently as you would have one in your hair if you had two. And so then I just stopped looking. And I took the one out of my Amazon cart that I had been about to buy, and I was like, Hannah. But I'm so glad that I caught myself in the act of that, because that is exactly the kind of thing that I no longer want to be doing. Really liking a thing, that's good news. Getting a lot of use out of a thing, that's good news. It's not, when you really like a thing, it's not like, I don't know, I feel like I have, part of me still is like, I really like a thing, therefore I don't have enough of it. But it's like, no, I really like a thing. Great. All right, let's briefly talk about all the things that I wanted to buy when I was in person at Sephora recently. I had lunch with a friend at the Grove, and before we left, we went into the Sephora. I think that it is the first time I've been physically to a Sephora since before the pandemic. I think that that's the case. It was pretty trippy. We were in there together walking around, and also they like opened a new Sephora at the Grove. It's like this huge thing. So I was walking around, and there were a number of things that I almost bought. And here's what they were. Another Gucci lip voile, which I had never really seen the entire Gucci lip voile display in person. So I got to swatch some of them and see one of them, and I was really tempted to buy another one. But they're $42, and that's too much for me right now. So that kind of thing is still on my list, has been for a long time, maybe always will be, but I didn't buy one a couple weeks ago when I was there. I got to see in person the Tower 28 cream blushes, which so many of you have told me that I will love. The shade, I think it's Magic Hour, looks so gorgeous, looks amazing, looks perfect for me. And I swatched it and I was like, this is perfect. I love it. And then I was just like, Hannah, you have so much cream blush. That was one of those moments. It's not even insanely expensive. Sorry, I have cat hair all over my face now. I think it's like $20. I think that for me with that, it wasn't even my budget, because even though I'm trying to really like slow my roll with spending my budget right now, I didn't think like, oh gosh, I really can't in good conscience spend another $20. It wasn't that. With that blush, it was like the quality over quantity thing. I was like, it looks perfect, but you have so many cream blushes. Do you really want to like buy another one, bring another one home, add another one into the drawer, have another one in the drawer every time you open it? And as soon as I started thinking about it through that lens, I was like, I'm good. The Gucci lip liner. When I was looking at I'm really into lip liner right now. I go through these phases where like all I want to wear on my lips is lip liner. Gucci released a lip liner just like sometime in the past 6 months, I think. And as I was looking at the Gucci display, the Gucci lip walls, I saw the Gucci lip liners. They're just so covetable. Like the way that they design everything is so covetable. The idea of a Gucci lip liner, the shade, the brownie nude, that is the one that I was drawn to, is so beautiful. I just really wanted to buy a Gucci lip liner when I was there at Sephora, but I think it was also ridiculously expensive. And the other thing that made me really, really stop was I thought about all of the lip liners that I have. The last time I wanted to buy a luxury lip liner, it was like when Natasha Denona came out with lip liners, and I was shopping my stash and I like gathered together all of my nude for me lip liners and I looked at them and there were like 8 of them. So when I was standing there in Sephora looking at the Gucci lip liners, I thought about that. I thought about how many different shades of brown and beige and mauve I have already in lip liners. And I was like, I'm just going to go home and play with my lip liner before I commit to buying another one. I tried on a perfume that I really, really loved. It's the Juliet Has a Gun, Another Oud. The Juliet Has a Gun Oud scent. I tried it on in Sephora. I loved the way it smelled. I sprayed it on myself, and then I loved the way that I smelled for the rest of the day. There's no bad thing about this perfume. And there is also a rollerball that's pretty affordable. Old Hannah would have already bought that perfume. I would have bought it in a second. I would have come home, because it used to be that if I sprayed a perfume on myself and I loved the way that it smelled, I could not live unless I had it. I just had to smell like that. I had to smell like my best self all the time. I had to like own that ineffable quality. There's something really compelling about scent, especially when it comes to that like fantasy self, the fantasy brain. There's something about the fantasy of smelling a certain way that really used to get me and like push on my buttons when I was trapped in that spending cycle before my no-buy year. So it was interesting to experience the discovery of a scent I had never smelled that was right up my alley, checked all of my boxes, wasn't even too expensive for me, the rollerball size. And then to just be like, I'm fine, I'm good. I haven't even been wearing perfume that much. I don't have that many perfumes right now. I've really intensely decluttered my collection. And I don't even really have an oud right now, one that smells like that really woody, delicious thing. But it's just fine. Maybe someday I'll get it. I like filed the information away in my brain about this scent that I really like, and I'm just waiting rather than immediately acting on having discovered a scent that I really like. So I wanted it, but I just said no thank you. And then the last thing that I almost bought in Sephora, like I had the bottle in my hand, is the Ilia skin tint, the Ilia Super Serum skin tint, because I feel like I've seen Khaki raving about it, and maybe like sorry, Sadie needed to be let out. And I just feel like my bangs are never today doing the right thing. I keep messing with them and messing them up. I need a bang trim actually, which is, I'm about to go get one this weekend. So this is like the final struggle. What were we talking about? Oh, the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I've seen Khaki sort of holding it up as like the standard against which all other skin tints are compared. I don't think that sentence came out quite right, but you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a lot of people sort of holy grail or semi-holy grail, or so I thought I had heard. The other thing about it, and this is the thing that really got me, is the shade range goes so light and so neutral. And I saw the entire shade range laid out in Sephora. I had never seen that. And I swatched the palest shade and it was like so perfect for me. And then a minute later, it had just separated into like oil on my skin. Like it didn't really blend in. There wasn't really coverage. I kept swatching it and then I would rub it in and then it would just be like, it was almost like it beaded up on my skin and it would just become nothing. I I was not compelled by the swatches, but I was still very close to buying it because of the shade range. And then I was just like, Hannah, look at how it looks on your skin. Like, do you want this on your face? And then I was like, no, Hannah, no, I don't. And then I just put it back and left the store. The other makeup that I've considered buying time and time again are 2 more shades of Clionadh stained glass collection. They came out with like new ones. And in the new range, there are 2 shadows that are really, really grungy and neutral. I think one is called Bloodstone. I should look them up. One is called Opulent and one is called Bloodline. So Opulent and Bloodline are the 2 new Clionadh shades that I want. Every once in a while I go to the website and I put them in my cart, and then I'm like, Hannah, just wear the ones you have. I've been so lucky. I have this handful of Clionadh Shadows from the Stained Glass collection that they sent me in PR a couple of years ago, and I wear them pretty frequently, but none of them are anywhere close to being like completely panned or used up, and they're all so beautiful. I just don't need to spend another pretty much $40 on 2 more of them to add to this collection that, again, it gets use, but it just doesn't get the kind of intense, absolutely destructive, using it up down to its very last drop use that would warrant refreshing it. And then when I move on, I feel good. When I let it go and I move on, I feel good. I feel at peace. And then I forget about it, usually for like weeks, if not months on end. But intermittently over the past couple of months, I've been like, I should buy those 2 Clionadh shades. And then I'm like, no, I shouldn't. Those are really special eyeshadows. And I do feel like they're worth it. It's like worth it to buy a couple of them. But I already have a couple of them. Oh my gosh, more on the list of like wanting to buy stuff that I already have more of. So, I bought that dress from Hill House Home, the black Swiss dot Ellie Knapp dress. I almost bought 2 dresses when I bought it. It was my first Hill House Home purchase, and I was very tempted by another style in another print. And I'm really glad that I narrowed it down to just one, because I feel like it would have been too much money if I had bought 2, and it would have been too many dresses. Like, I'm really happy with the number of new dresses that I did acquire. So I just got the one. And I really dodged the bullet there, talked myself down to just getting one thing. Another thing I learned during my no buy year is that it's hard for me to just buy one thing, especially online. There's this thing that goes on, this psychological thing where I'm like, I want there to be like a curated cart. You know what I mean? I want to combine things, put them together and make a purchase. Buying just one thing feels kind of like, or it used to feel to me kind of like a letdown. Now I feel like it's a kind of triumph. I feel like I haven't allowed those old mental patterns to trick me into buying more than I actually wanted. So frequently before my no buy year, I would want one thing and I would like go to a website just to get that one thing, or go to Sephora just to get that one thing. And then while I was there, I would be like, what else can I add to this purchase? I was constantly asking myself that. What else can I add to this purchase to make it more exciting, to make it more well-rounded, to make it more worth it to pay for shipping or whatever, So I kind of was doing that when I was considering buying a dress from Hill House Home. I was like, what else can I add to this purchase? And then I was just like, no, I'm just going to get the one that I wanted, the one that is the reason I'm making this purchase. So that was good. But then when the dress arrived, I opened it and I put it on and I loved it so much that I immediately wanted to go buy another one. And so it was like twice I wanted to buy more than one dress from Hill House Home. And now in retrospect, now that it's like some weeks in the past, I'm so glad that I just stuck with the one, because I really, really love the one I got and I just need one. There's all sorts of stuff. I can't even begin to go into it. All sorts of stuff on Poshmark that I have found when browsing, hearted it, added to my list of loves, wanted it, and then not purchased it. Because my favorite way to shop is to buy secondhand clothing. And so sometimes when I want another thing, like if I want some more loungewear, the Skims, the Hill House Home dress, the Takis, the whatever I want, sometimes my strategy for disengaging from that feeling of needing it is to go to Poshmark and search the secondhand market for it and see if I can find something similar to it that's being resold. It's just, a more sustainable way to shop for clothes, and tends to also be less expensive to buy something secondhand. So there are a number of times I find myself on Poshmark browsing as a result of having let go of a desire for something new and expensive. Like that Desmond and Dempsey nightgown, a couple of times when I was considering buying it, instead I would just go to Poshmark and see if there's any Desmond and Dempsey stuff on Poshmark. So there's a bunch of stuff on Poshmark that from doing that, I've ended up hearting, but then not buying. So I use the idea of browsing the secondhand market to kind of calm myself down from the feeling of wanting something brand new and expensive. And then usually I can even manage, almost always actually, I can even manage to just not buy the thing from the secondhand market either. So all of this stuff gets hearted and then abandoned on Poshmark. And there's a long list of things that I've sort of semi-considered buying from Poshmark and then just not bought. And in those cases, most of them, it is, again, like what I was saying about the Tower 28 blush. It's not really the fear of overspending or the desire to protect my bank account because, a lot of times those things are more affordable. In those cases, it's often the resistance to having a bunch more packages come in the mail, to having a bunch of stuff pile up. It's like I really get down to the bottom of it and I get down to the moment of truth where I could buy the thing and I'm like, I'm good. I can do without a whole other thing on top of the stuff that I have. Speaking of the secondhand market, let's talk about things that I didn't buy when I went out shopping in person. And I don't know if I remember everything because I talked in that video about the things I did buy. I talked about the shopping trip that I took where I went to some secondhand shops, some Crossroads, some Buffalo Exchanges. And there's a bunch of things that I tried on that I really did like in those shops and I just decided not to get because you can't buy everything you like. At least I can't. One thing I remember was this Isabel Marant. It was like a linen fitted tee from Isabel Marant and it said Marant on it and had this really cool vintage flocked graphic that looked like an old gas station graphic or something, except that it said Marant. It was really beautiful and it looked so chic on me, but it was a little too expensive for its condition. I think it was something like $45 and it just wasn't in very good condition. And just as like a person who assesses garments, I've resold stuff myself. I've bought stuff on Poshmark a bunch and stuff from resale shops a bunch. I just felt like they were asking too much for the condition that it was in. And they were doing that based on the fact that it was Isabel Marant. And even though I really, really liked it and I would have liked to own it and wear it, I was just like, this is just too expensive for what it is. And so I let it go. There was this really beautiful Italian linen dress that fit perfectly. It was really, really lovely quality. And it was just not in a color that suits me. It was like this very, very bright blue. The color was beautiful. And I was sort of entranced by this like vision of myself in a color that I never wear. It was like very different. I was also seduced by the quality of the garment and the design of the garment. And then at the end of the day, I was just like, don't kid yourself, girl. Like this isn't a you thing. It's a someone else thing. It's just not designed for you. It's just not the color for you. It's not the kind of thing that you really love to wear. And if you get it, you'll be kind of buying a fantasy of like a different version of yourself and you probably won't end up wearing it that much. So it was lovely, but I let it go. There was this really cool long slouchy jersey dress that I tried on that I just felt really like edgy in. And I was just like, like I was just waltzing around the dressing room being like, yeah, this is me now. I'm just enveloped in this like putty colored yards of fabric that just like drape on the floor. I think it was also like really oversized on me. I felt really cool in it, but I just know fabric because of having worked with fabric for so many years. And I know that it wouldn't have washed and worn all that well. I know that it would have like pilled a little bit after a little while. I wanted to buy it because I really felt my oats in it. I was like, I felt really cool in it, but I held myself back from buying like the fantasy of how it felt in the moment because I knew that fantasy, that feeling wouldn't last for very long because I knew that the garment wouldn't last for very long. And then the last thing on that day, because I'm searching for comfortable underwear, on my way home, I stopped by a Nordstrom Rack and I didn't find any comfortable underwear. In the past, I've always had a really good time shopping for underwear at Nordstrom Rack. I've always had good luck there. And the past couple times I've ever gone to Nordstrom Rack, it's like the underwear racks at Nordstrom Rack aren't popping like they used to be. That's my experience right now. Maybe I'm just in the wrong part of the city or something. But while I was there, I looked at the sunglasses and that was when I saw the Miu Miu sunglasses that I was sort of alluding to in that other video. These like amazing, crazy wire-framed Miu Miu sunglasses, sort of like sculptural, bug-like, very weird. I love them. They were just like $125. I couldn't spend $125 on sunglasses that day. This season, this is not the season for me to be spending $125 on sunglasses because I've spent $120 on that Hill House home dress. I've spent my money already on stuff for myself. And so even though I wanted them, it was just beyond. And I left them at the store. I left them at the rack. All right, a couple of things. We're nearing the end, thank goodness. There was a period there during which I really wanted to get new sneakers, even though my sneakers are fine. I don't know why. I just thought these sneakers looked really, really cool compared to my current sneakers. I was like, these will be more comfortable. I'll wear them all the time. I'll be so glad I got them. I know they'll fit really well. Thought about it. And then I just ended up not pulling the trigger on it because the sneakers that I have, I just kept wearing them and they're fine. It was like, I almost bought those other sneakers. And then I was like, let's just go one more week just wearing my existing sneakers and let's just see how it goes. And then at the end of that week, I was like, let's just go one more week wearing my existing sneakers and let's just see how it goes. And then I was just like, let's just go one more week just wearing the sneakers that I already have, which are in perfectly fine condition and I really love how they look. Let's just go one more week just wearing them. And then eventually I forgot about the other sneakers and I never went back and bought them. A lot of times when I'm walking on the treadmill, I wear ankle weights, like they just strap around, they Velcro on around my ankle. They're not very heavy. I think they might be like 1 pound or maybe they're 3 pounds. They're like really, really not heavy. And they just have been like rubbing on my ankle a little bit funny. And one day I was like, I need new ankle weights. Like these ones aren't working well anymore. They're uncomfortable and they're leaving like a little raw spot on my ankle. So I looked up ankle weights. I was like, I need better ankle weights. I need better designed ankle weights. I need them to be like really, really comfortable. I need the best, only the best ankle weights. So I was looking them up and I was like researching ankle weights. And then I found a pair that was like $10. You know, it's not like this huge investment, but they looked like they were better designed than the ones that I have, softer. It would be easier to wear. And then I was like, Hannah, you already have ankle weights. Position them over your socks in such a way that they don't rub at your ankle. Or like just when you're going to wear them, wear leggings so that you can wear them over the ends of your leggings and you don't rub at your ankle. Like I can do that. I can absolutely make the ones that I have work. There was just this moment, this like 3 to 5 minute moment when I was like, these aren't perfect and I need perfect ones. And I did a little frenzy and then I just was like, but we're not actually going to follow through with this, are we? Because we don't do that anymore. That's it. I'm not going to talk about I was going to talk about the fact that I'm not buying a wedding dress, but I don't think that I can do it right now. I feel really spent. I feel kind of like emotionally exhausted. I'll come back with that information in another video. It was a little bit of a decision. I've considered a couple of times getting a wedding dress. I've done a little bit of shopping around, but I ultimately decided against it, and I'm really glad about that. So that's like the biggest and most main thing over the past 3 or 4 months that I kind of wanted and decided not to buy, this like practical decision not to spend money and not to buy something that I made. But I just feel like it's a little bit more of an in-depth thing and that I don't have capacity right now to do it. And I would like to do it justice. But before I go, there's one thing that I bought with my budget over the summer that I forgot to tell you about in the other video. And it's this hat. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen it. It's just a sun hat, but it's, it's extremely textural and editorial, and some might say glamorous, and some other people might say that it makes you look like a weird cowboy Muppet, but some other people might say that it's fashion. And those are the people I choose to listen to. I got this from an Etsy seller and it shipped from Greece. And it took a really long time to get here. And during that time, I was like, however, am I going to keep the sun from touching my face? I had been using Julia's straw hat every time I went into the backyard to do anything, garden, mostly play with the baby out there. I was grabbing Julia's straw hat, but her head is much smaller than mine. And so it doesn't even fit. It didn't even remotely fit on my head. It like sits up here. So it was just sitting perched up there and always falling off. And also the brim wasn't really wide enough to truly protect my big old face from the sun. And I was spending so much time, I have been spending so much time outside that one day I was finally just like, I need to get myself a straw hat that fits my head, that has a wide enough brim to protect my face from the sun. So I went looking and I found this glorious one. I wasn't expecting it to be so fashion, but I found this one that pleases me in a number of ways and also works really well. I'll link the Etsy shop from which I purchased it in the comment section down below. And now I have got to go. I've got to go rest my voice. We're done here. I really appreciate you for watching this video all the way through. And I do hope that it was helpful for those of you who are in any way trying to recover from or keep in check the impulse to buy a bunch of beautiful stuff that either that is a repeat of what you already own, is just more of the same of what you already own, is stuff that you can't afford, is stuff where you'd be buying a fantasy instead of buying something that would really be practical. Or even if you don't have those impulses or you don't struggle too much with them, I hope that I was able to provide a little perspective for you today about how much not shopping, how much not checking out, not buying, not acquiring goes on behind the scenes, even of someone who talks mostly on the internet about the stuff that she does decide to buy and does decide to acquire. In order for me to be able to afford to buy the things that I do buy, and especially in order for me to be joyful about them and to be happy to share them with you and happy to wear them on camera and just to, move forward in my life with them being like, I'm so glad I bought that. I have to say no to all of these things that I talked about in this video. And as I indicated at the beginning, many, many, many more than just these things. So I'm always flexing these muscles of resistance, muscles of moderation, and I wanted to give you guys a little window into that in this video. Thank you again for being here, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.